Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. In an unprecedented move we've seen today, Justice Athar Manila record his reasons. He said that as far as he's concerned, the suo motu was baseless. It shouldn't have come. There are other things he said. He's also said this court cannot and must not appear or be seen as advancing the political strategies of political stakeholders. The public trust will be eroded in the independence and impartiality of the court if it appears or is seen to encourage undemocratic norms and values. He further said that the conduct of the stakeholders has created unprecedented political instability by resorting to conduct that is devoid of the democratic values of tolerance, dialogue and debate. The conduct of the stakeholders does not entitle them to invoke the jurisdiction of this court under Article 184(3) of the Constitution, lest it is seen or appears to facilitate or promote undemocratic values and strategies. And he's also said it is also alarming that the conduct of the political stakeholders and their political strategies would create unprecedented political turmoil and instability in the country. Political stability is a precondition to economic progress and prosperity of the people. He clearly states that it is a 4-3 judgment. He also clearly states that as far as the jurisdiction of 184(3) is concerned, it should not have been assumed, and assumed is a word that is used in his judgment in this manner. We cannot erase the judgments from the law reports, but at least endeavour to restore public trust and confidence so that the past is forgotten to some extent. When politicians do not approach the appropriate forums and bring their disputes to the courts, the former may win or lose the case, but inevitably the court is the loser. The note that Justice Manila has penned is extremely inflammatory in nature. It also talks about issues, it talks about areas within the political process. It talks about areas of also the judicial process that are extremely sensitive. It also is a testament to what the government has been saying for the last couple of days since the judgment came. We'll be talking about the ramifications of this note, which will be there for all of us to see for a certainly a time period to come. What will this mean for the courts? What will this mean for the Supreme Court at this time? Of course, as far as the government is concerned, they maintain that their stance has been vindicated by the note that has been penned by Justice Athar Manila. We'll be talking about all of this. We'll be talking about the political ramifications of this dissenting note that has been given, and the legal ramifications, of course. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Hafiz Ehsan Khokhar, who's Advocate Supreme Court. Thank you for joining us today. We also have with us Saif Jamshed Baryar, who's a political analyst. Thank you for being with us. Rana Maqbool Ahmed, who is a senator with PMLN. Thank you for joining us. And Abdullah Mumtaz Kaloon, who is with the PTI. Thank you for being with us. Ji, Hafiz Sahab, like I said, it's as I understand, a 23-page note, and it's if one goes into the details, there's a lot that has been said. It is certainly very meaty. It's also very inflammatory. It's also echoing the kind of concerns that the government was talking about. We also saw Maryam Nawaz speak to the lawyers a few days ago, and she categorically raised issues that seem to be issues that have been penned within these pages that Justice Athar Manila talks about. How do you look at this? How do you look at the ramifications of this very loaded dissenting note by the Justice?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much. The controversy starts, which itself the dissenting note of Justice Athar Manila in April 2022, when a vote of no confidence was moved against the former Prime Minister. It was taken over by a ruling of the Deputy Speaker, and then finally matter went to the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and Supreme Court of Pakistan took suo motu as well as on the application of the Supreme Court Bar Association decided the matter and reversed all these things, and finally the vote of no confidence was held under the order of the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and the new government took over. Then a matter was brought to the courts, but it was prior to the April 2022 when the previous government through President filed a reference under Article 63A of the Constitution. And that matter was also decided by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and they have given certain guidelines, including that when you violate the party instructions of the parliamentary party, you will be disqualified and your vote will not be counted.
63A.
63A. And this dissenting note has also given the reference of this 63A judgment, and it says that the trickle down effect or the triggering of the matter was Article 63A judgment. Then there was a problem in Punjab regarding the stopping of the Chief Minister to act by the Governor, and that matter went to the High Court, and ultimately the High Court said that the order of the Governor was not constitutional, and the Chief Minister was asked to get the vote of confidence, and finally he got the vote of vote of confidence, and then he dissolved the Assembly. So when he dissolved the Assembly under Article 112, he gave the advice to the Governor, but the Governor thought he did not accept the advice, but due to the article, as soon the advice went through and 48 hours passed, the advice would have to take place. And simultaneously he was bound to give a date for holding the election within the 90 days, which he did not. And the caretaker, despite he is not giving the date, the caretaker government was appointed. And matter first went to the High Court by the PTI, and then come to the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and then the controversy started from the 22nd of February 2023. The first, first the High Court was decided, and then the speakers of both assemblies approached to the Supreme Court.
But Hafiz Sahab, what do you think will happen now after this dissenting note?
Now I say that there is a difference of opinion among the judges of the Supreme Court of Pakistan, but lastly when
but is it merely that? Can we just, I mean, say that this is a difference of opinion, the way that it's being aired now, the way that, you know, the words that have been used, linking it to the political process, saying that it's one political, you've even, I mean, you know, he's even said that this is, you know, he's linked it quite you know, categorically to the PTI as a political party.
When the constitutional questions would only go to the Supreme Court of Pakistan, you can expect otherwise. But when all the time you brought the political questions to the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and when Supreme Court or the High Court will decide on the matter, there are certain opinions that, and this particular cases, this is not the issue. Even we have 3 dissenting notes in SMC 1 2023, one by Mr. Yahya Afridi, one by Mr. Atar Minallah, and jointly by Justice Mansoor Ali Shah and Justice Mandokh Khail. They only speak about the jurisdiction of under Article 184(3).
But this is a step further. This is when early dissolution of provincial assemblies was also a political strategy. Questions why Supreme Court...
The court should not sit on the political strategy.
Questions why Supreme Court must lend its own shoulder to promote PTI's political strategies.
This, I must say, the court is not here to judge the political strategy. It is the right of the political parties to make their strategies. So this is the prerogative.
Accusation, is it not?
I only say this is the observation of the Honorable Judge of the Supreme Court of Pakistan, but we all agree on that. The Supreme Court has its own role, the political parties has its own role, the Parliament has its own role. But in this particular case, the controversy...
Hafiz Sahab is being rather cautious. Let me come back to you, Hafiz Sahab. I'm going to go to Jamshed Sahab. Jamshed Sahab, isn't it true that, you know, doesn't it read like an accusation in your opinion? I mean, it's clearly accusing the senior most judge of the Supreme Court at this time. Wouldn't you say that, you know, there are categorical accusations within the note?
Well, I think, MAHRUKH, I've not entirely gone through the 23 pages, but as it has been suggested by many legal experts till now, I think this is ultimately something that might bring in a constitutional rift. It might bring in a constitutional crisis. The issue over here is that the way the proceedings were done, that themselves have been questioned by a very senior authority of the court itself, an honorable justice. So when an honorable justice questions the proceedings of the particular case, I think that destroys the very essence of judicial optimism that an average person has out there.
But the point is, let me come back to you, Rana Sahab, the point is that, you know, we saw what Mariam Nawaz also said, we saw what, you know, the PMLN leadership has been saying since the judgment came in. Is it not, and you know, does it not, in your opinion, echo the same sentiments? If we look at the dissenting note at this time, does it not say essentially the same thing? And it also, and if one were to agree that it does, then, you know, it talks about, I mean, the confidence in the senior most judge of the Supreme Court.
Thank you, Mahrukh. My salam to all the participants. This is, to me, a simple issue. It's a question of political and legal impiety and piety. Because as pure a judge as Atar Munillah in his ideas and thoughts, is all of us know him, his previous conduct as well. Know his ruling and his analysis. There is little left to object to it. His position is extremely impregnable and based on truth and reality, and we can't sacrifice such an issue on the altar of technicalities. So therefore, I personally think he has hit the nail in the head.
Okay.
I may, if you allow me, I may tell you a story, very, very short one. Altaf Gaur writes in his biography, and he says Justice Munir, that the same Justice Munir, who is responsible for causing so much of loss to this nation, he said, I came to know he's sick. I drove all the way from Pindi to Lahore. His house was in 5, Gulberg 5. I was given permission to meet him. He was lying in his bed. I was made to sit with him in the chair. At the very outset, the judge, Mr. Munir, put me a question, Altaf, I don't know what will happen about other issues, but I am very disturbed about the case of Maulvi Tamizuddin. What can be done? Altaf said, Judge Sahab, nothing can be done. Time is gone. Only pray to God and only pray to God for forgiveness. He said forgiveness, and after 3 days he passed away. These people are very important people. They have to conduct themselves conscientiously, honestly, piously, devotedly, correctly, and in a reasonable manner. So once you put 3 judges time and again in the same bench, and whole of the country is crying, what's the compulsion to do that? All the honorable 4 judges, they have raised one question, the arbitrariness of the senior most person. So do you think this despotic attitude, this hegemonic attitude, acting as master of the roster, and then giving such rulings and judgments which are detrimental to the country's interest? I'm talking very frank, with all respect and regard. They are very senior people. But would it be acceptable? We have to have ideals. Let's have ideals like Cornelius. Let us have ideals like Hamudur Rahman, Rana Bhagwan Das, Nasrul Mulk, and many others. Why do we have ideals like Irshad Hasan Khan and Saqib Nassar and others? So we have to take a decision about our future life. You have been given so much of power and authority. You can't play with the fate of the nation. So this is the question which is to be answered.
Rana Sahab, let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Abdullah Mumtaz Kaloon. Ji, Abdullah, can you hear me?
Indeed, Mahrukh, I can. Thank you for having me.
Abdullah, there is a lot that has been, thank you for joining us. There is a lot that has been said about, you know, we've seen the PMLN say things which seem to be echoed again, like I said, in the judgment, in the dissenting note that has come. How does the PTI now look at it, and what do you think are the ramifications of this on your political narrative, on your narrative as a whole, because there's also, he's also talked about dissolution, and he's questioning the dissolution itself, which was also taken up earlier in the High Court.
MAHRUKH, the first thing is that the PDM is trying to conflate two different issues. The first issue is whether elections in Punjab and the KPK should be held within the 90-day constitutional time frame. That's issue number one. Issue number two is the constitution or the composition of the benches and the remit of the Article 184.3, the Chief Justice of Pakistan's suo motu power. Now, in relation to the latter issue, the PDM is trying to stir up a hornet's nest that, oh, look, there are these judges, they keep forming the same benches, there's this, there's that. But at the end of the day, all 7 judges...
The PDM, this is a judge. This is not the PDM, this is a judge of the Supreme Court, no?
MAHRUKH, you have not interrupted any of the other 3 speakers, so please let me speak.
Okay, fair enough.
So the thing is that all 4 dissenting judges have not said anything on the 90-day constitutional time frame. And this basically means that the Constitution's writing in black and white is that the elections in Punjab and KPK should happen within 90 days. Why should Punjabis be deprived of their constitutional right to vote? What is the legitimate cause of it? There's none. So
but does it
the
not,
thing is,
okay, can I interject now? But does it not affect your political narrative? Abdullah, you have been saying that the judgment that has come is clearly non-controversial. This now, the note itself clearly says that makes it very, very controversial. It makes the office of the Chief Justice at this time indeed very controversial. It links that office to your political party. It completely exonerates the government. It exonerates Maryam Nawaz's statements that she made, talking about the judgment itself, talking about the judges, talking about the way that the judgment came out, talking about the treatment itself, talking about, the overall judicial process. This seems to be clearly a charge sheet, does it not?
upon is that last year, Chief Justice of Pakistan, Umar Tabandi, Mark, can you hear me?
Ji.
Hello?
Ji, I can hear you loud and clear.
So, Mark, last year, Chief Justice Umar Tabandi Sahab took notice of Qasim Suri Saab's ruling. I have to remind the whole audience today of the composition of that bench. It had Umar Tabandi Saab, Mr. Justice Ijazul Ehsan, Mr. Justice Muneeb Akhtar, Mr. Justice Mazhar Miakhel, Mr. Justice Jamal Khan Mandokhel. At that time, I did not hear the protest, raise hue and cry over the composition of the judiciary, the benches and whatnot. The result of that decision was that Imran Khan's government was sent packing. Okay, we accepted that decision with like a bitter pill that it was, and we came onto the streets. Now, what I don't seem to understand is why is the PTM suffering from sour grapes?
But Abdullah, is it now, in your opinion, let me just clarify one second. Is it now about the PDM only? It seems not to be. It's about the courts now, no?
Yeah, or even about the courts. Let's put the technicality to one side. Are you trying to tell the audience today that the elections in Punjab should not be held within 90 days? That's the constitution. If you're going to drive coaches and
Abdullah, what I'm trying to tell the audience today is that the senior, according to a judge of the Supreme Court, no less, the judgment that has come out is a 4-3 judgment. What I'm trying to tell the audience is that the judgment that is, according to Athar Minallah Saab, the judgment that has come out is clearly reeking of political partisanship. It is reeking of, the dissolution itself is now controversial. The decision itself is controversial. It is clearly, like I said, a charge sheet against the PTI.
MAHRUKH, only one of the 7 raised issues about the dissolution of the Punjab Assembly. The other 6 did not raise anything about that.
Okay, fair enough. Let me come back to
the
you.
thing
Okay,
is,
on that note, let me come back
the
to
thing
you.
is, I have to say
Hafiz Saab, let's talk about, let's leave everything else aside. Let's leave the political party PTI on the one side, the PDM also on this. The overall at this time, what does it say about the Supreme Court, in your opinion? It's a divided Supreme Court. It's a controversial Supreme Court. It's a, it's a overall. If we look at the judicial process, does it not itself become what's the other word? Controversial. If you go as a political, for anyone to go to have recourse to the Supreme Court at this time and expect it to meet, to dispense justice. In this kind of a climate, is it not difficult? Is it not?
There is no doubt that the Supreme Court of Pakistan is the highest judicial authority in Pakistan. The Constitution has given the vast powers to the Supreme Court of Pakistan to decide all matters relating to the dispensation of justice in the country. Simultaneously, it is also important that all the state institutions, they are bound to aid in the justice dispensation system of the Supreme Court of Pakistan. Also, all state institutions are bound by the judgments of the Supreme Court of Pakistan. This is also mandatory in the Constitution, that we should respect the judicial institutions like the superior courts, Supreme Court or the high courts. It is also very important that while we making our propositions before the law, and if they decide in one favor, we have to respect. So this is the one aspect. The second aspect on the political side, the political aspect is that now there is a tug of war between the political parties. One side, there are the PDM parties, and the second side is the PTI, and the court is in between the PDM and the PTI. The PDM wants that the election should not be held prior October. The PTI says that it is mandatory in the Constitution, the elections should be held within the 90 days. The plain language of the Constitution is that if Chief Minister dissolve the Assembly, the election has to be held within the 90 days. So there is no question on it. But now there is a federal government, there is a caretaker government, and there is no political dialogue between the political parties. They are not sit together. Even while sitting the hearing by the Chief Justice in CP number 5 of 2023 by the Speaker, when he came to the Supreme Court of Pakistan, that the extension of election date by the Election Commission of Pakistan was not legal, he made so many times observed that the political parties should sit together, the government should come up with the certain proposals, the PTI should come up with certain proposals, and ultimately when both sides they did not reach even to speak on these issues, the court has to decide. And this is a very, precise order by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, giving in against the order of the Election Commission of Pakistan.
But now what happens to the order, in your opinion, after this?
Now the order of the Chief Justice of Pakistan will prevail. The order itself says that the earlier order was passed after the reconstitution of the bench, and it was 3-2. It is prevailed, and by all other means that the opinions by the the judges, it was prior to the reconstitution of the bench. When the bench was reconstituted by the Chief Justice of Pakistan, then the members who were part of that member, they decide either they in the majority or in the minority.
They were not. You don't think that it's possible to have a full court on this now?
The matter has been decided. The request of the Attorney General was not inclined by the Chief Justice of Pakistan. Now the government has only one option. The legal option is that the government should file a review application inviting all the legal points and come before the Supreme Court of Pakistan to defend the case. In the last hearing, the government only went on the technical issues. They only spoke about the two-third decision. They only spoke about the composition and writing and reading on the dissenting notes of the judges of the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and they did not go to the merits of the case. So if there is a problem like the funding, and security is also another big issue. And there is a valid point in the government side that the elections to be held simultaneously by the National Assembly and the Provincial Assembly, but this is not a way that I mean you are hiding yourself only on the technical grounds and not come up with a complete process.
Now what happened? In your opinion, the case has been decided, and the only way now for the government is to go and review.
To file a review application.
It's not possible for a full court to
even if the government makes a request to the review, and it is the prerogative of the Chief Justice of Pakistan, they can go on it. So there is no issue at all. But we should not make an ego of the issue. MAHRUKH, very simply, who is suffering in this because of these all situations? The people of Pakistan are suffering. The economy of the country is suffering. The people are dividing on these issues, which is clear in the constitution.
But Hafiz Sahib, it's not the people right now. I mean, of course, you know, at this time, the way that, let me go to Saif Saab, the way that we are looking at the Supreme Court being divided, the manner in which it is divided, the manner in which we are looking at judgments at this time, you know, there is a judgment that comes, and then there is a note that surfaces, there's a judgment that comes, then there's a note that surfaces. Clearly, you know, reeks of making, you know, the whole process itself is now controversial. So what does one do about that? You know, and of course it will have ramifications for the political process also.
MAHRUKH, I think that if we talk about the highest authority that dispenses justice in this particular country, that is the Supreme Court. The very idea of the maintenance of the justice system lies in equity, equity of justice being dispensed to everyone out there, whether it's a political party A, it's a political party B, it's a political party C. Now the ramifications of this would be very simple. I personally think that I'm seeing a constitutional rift emerging. I'm seeing a constitutional crisis emerging. And even last time before coming to your show, I calculated the inflation rate. It's almost close to 43%. The people outside won't be very much interested in what is happening within the courts, but rather what are the repercussions of what's happening within the courts, within the parliament, within political
And that's
parties.
something to the judgment also again keeps talking about political stability.
Absolutely.
Do you think it's possible, let me go to Rana Sahab. Rana Sahab, do you think it's possible now for there to be, you know, again the talks that you know, we've seen the judiciary also try to move the political parties towards, and we saw a refusal earlier by the opposition, primarily the former Prime Minister himself. Do you think there's a chance now?
Chance is there. There looks to be some light at the end of the tunnel. But unfortunately, there are certain issues which have added fuel to the fire. You have rightly pointed out, and my friends also, that once there is such a strong disagreement and such a strong dissent within the judges, with the superior most court of the country, so some solution has to be found out. I personally think, as a very incompetent student of law, the immediate solution will be to form a full bench to hear this case. This will immediately extinguish this fire of controversy without wasting of time, and it can be done within 1 day. You might remember.
No, but Rana Sahib, please continue.
You might. There is an amendment in the law about 184(3). The background, you know, the bars also are the party to it. It's not the PDM only. The bars and other men of opinion are party to it. All of them, they talk in unison that 184(3).
But Rana Sahib, it's not just that. The question is, at this time, there are two questions, right? One, of course, is the elections, which are supposed to, you know, the question for the courts has been whether 90-day period has to be followed. And the second question is, of course, the jurisdiction, like you said, and the purview and the ambit of 184(3), on which you've already legislated upon, the parliament has legislated upon. Of course, it hasn't yet become law, but those are formalities, right, largely.
Aren't we listening to the opinion of the 4 honorable judges, the senior judges? Are we overlooking their opinion? Don't they have any weightage in the eyes of law and the constitution? We must consider their opinion and then reach a consensus And as already submitted, the consensus is that there has to be full bench. Don't waste time. It will cause a lot of disastrous ramifications. Do it
Okay,
immediately.
Only on a lighter side.
Ji,
On a
Hafiz
lighter
sir.
side, there are 17 members of the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
I think there are 15 currently.
Now there are 15, 2 are vacant, and all 15 have made their opinions regarding 184.3. 9 who made in the first site, and 2 out of them they were made in the Hafiz case, in the case of the 20 marks to giving them, and then the remaining, they again sat together and they overrule and they recall the order of the Justice Yahya Afridi and Justice Faizisa. Now all 15 judges who are sitting in the Supreme Court of Pakistan, they have made their opinion regarding 184.3. 6 saying that 184.3 should not be exercised in a way which is repeatedly been saying first we have to make the rules and regulations, and this is the prerogative under 84.3 by the Parliament and under Article 191 by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and by all remaining members of the Supreme Court. They are saying it is within the competency of the Supreme Court of Pakistan to take action, and the Chief Justice is the ultimate authority under Article 184.3 of the Constitution.
Let me go to Abdullah. Ji, Abdullah, do you think now, let's leave the legal question aside, let's leave what this has, exposed within the Supreme Court on one side, but do you think there's a chance at this time now for you to go into political dialogue, for you to, if there is a larger bench, and like you are saying, the question of elections, whatever does come, why is the PTI so against that? If the larger bench is formed, and if you are, if you are saying that the law is clear on this, then of course we will see the larger bench also uphold that principle. The question is that there has been talk of political unity, there has been talk of coming together, there has been talk of dialogue. Do you think that is a possibility for Imran Khan Saab at all?
MAHRUKH, firstly, I echo Hafiz Ehsan Saab's comments on the remit of Article 184.3. I'd also like to remind the viewers today that there was also a 5-member judgment of the Supreme Court on the applicability of the Chief Justice's suo motu powers back in 2021. So if the PDM is so desperate to hide behind technicalities, formalities, and wants a full 15-member bench to decide on when suo motu should happen or not happen, they can have their full bench at any time. But as far as the elections in Punjab and KPK are concerned, the clock is ticking. 10th April, which is in 3 days' time, is when the 90-day period will end. So a big constitutional right in Punjab is being undermined. The rights of Punjabis to vote for whoever they want to see on Mall Road is being undermined. So the PDM is trying to
does the PTI not see that this is far from over? Does the PTI not realize that there is the only solution at this time is dialogue, and perhaps coming to some sort of agreement on issues like the date of elections, as far as institutions are concerned, instead of this acrimony, instead of this conflict that is constantly brewing? And is there a chance for that? That is my question. Are you going to be able to move towards that? Is your leadership now inclined towards that direction, or still no?
MAHRUKH, you have to go to our history to look at what has happened in the past. We've seen the same members of the PDM attack our Supreme Court, Justice Sajjad Ali Shah's courtroom, Chief Justice Sajjad Ali Shah's courtroom, the infamous Quetta registries, and today the PDM is following in the same footsteps. It's trying to make a clear verdict of the Supreme Court controversial. It is trying to resuscitate the doctrine of necessity. It is trying to bury the people's vote in Punjab. And as far as dialogue is concerned, MAHRUKH, PTI is always ready for dialogue, but dialogue should not happen on the sake of the 135 million people of Punjab. They want their right to vote. We're not going to wait till October 8th for this vote to happen. We want to happen it now, within the 90-day period. So if the other side keeps telling you, no, we can't have it before October, that's not happening. Because as far as the law is concerned, the caretaker setup, any decisions it makes on the 91st day are illegal. So we're in this legal limbo which has been, thanks to the PDM, and the thing is, MAHRUKH, what is clear today is that PDM is terrified of PTI. It is terrified of Imran Khan. It does not want to face Imran Khan.
Fair enough. Thank you so much, Abdullah. Lastly, I want to read, from the note itself. where Justice Athar Manila says that the power struggle between the political stakeholders is undermining the welfare and economic conditions of the people of the country. The people of Pakistan have been made to suffer for a long time by depriving them of their fundamental rights. The long spells of undemocratic regimes validated by this court have caused irretrievable loss to the country and its people. The institutions which represent the will of the people were not allowed to take roots. Therefore, perhaps the note itself needs to be looked into, and perhaps it is time for the political parties to come together for some kind of dialogue to avert the kind of constitutional crisis that is clearly brewing, and exposing issues deep within the Supreme Court, issues of a nature that will have far-reaching consequences, as the note itself also says. And along with it, of course, is the economic issues, the economic problems that this country is battling with constantly. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.